Hi, my name is Sofa. It's nice to see you. Today we're doing an arena review. Night in Stormwind is coming soon, so let's sit down and see what's new. As I stated in that intro, we're going to be doing a card review for your Night in Stormwind in arena. So one thing I'm going to state first is we're not going to be doing questline cards because obviously they're not going to be in arena. We're also going to be looking at this new word called tradable, which is basically hover a card over your deck, and it basically you have the option to shuffle into your deck for 1 mana and draw a new card. Very interesting keyword. I think it's going to be very good in arena and I'm really looking forward to it. Another thing as well, we have some new sets coming in. So as you know, every time a new set's coming in, we have like a bit of a rotation. So we're not going to see goblins and gnomes anymore, sadly. Ashes of Outland's going to be out as well, so no more orc merchants, which is going to make me very sad. But I'm very looking forward to Hunter because Desert Spear is coming back, which means it's probably going to be decent again, fingers crossed. Hopefully they give it Hunter a fairly decent offering rate, you know. I feel like Hunter needs it. But yeah, no, another set I haven't seen for a while is the Witchwood and Rastatan's Rumble. I'm really looking forward to it. So yeah, let's go do it. Let's go look at the new cards. Alrighty, as I said before as well, we're going to be doing a speedrun review, so I'm going to be going through these cards fairly quickly. I do apologise for that, but here is basically how I've ranked all the cards. I'm just going to go through them really quickly as to why they're ranked there. Like the first card we have is a 7 mana 6/7 taunt, and it gets reduced for every card you draw. I think Demon Hunter has a decent amount of draw cards, and it's basically a Boulder Fist with taunt even if you don't have any draws to reduce it with. I think it's really good. Next one we have is the 8 mana legendary, and again I think you can get a fair decent amount of fell spells in arena with Demon Hunter, and I think this card could actually be very beneficial for you coming back. Basically kind of compare it to the prime legendary with Mage. I think it could be game changing sometimes. Next card we have is also the spell. So basically it draws you a card for next turn and it reduces the cost. I think any card that reduces the cost of a card can be very strong. That's why it's in the 4-star tier. So next one we have is like Chaos Leech. So there are 2 mana versions of this spell where they basically deal 3 damage with lifesteal. So if you do not manage to outcast it, then I don't think it can be that great. That's why it's kind of like in the 3-star bracket. Like if you outcast it, great, but if you don't, you got the 2 mana spell next. It can be a flame cannon sometimes, but not all the time, and that's why it's kind of like 3 stars. Just even though it's a little bit more predictable, I don't think it's great. That's why I've just put it in good. I don't think it's awful though. Next card, again, really good card. The stats are very kind of like a little understated for the mana cost, but I like the effect of drawing a fell spell and reducing the cost. I think that's such a good key to have, like for Demon Hunter, because Demon Hunter kind of strives on drawing cards, and I think this is a really good one. Next card we have is the Murloc card. It's a 1/2 with taunt. You can even buff it with a fell spell by +2/+2, so I think it's really good. I think it's I quite like this card. And then the next one we have is the 4 mana card. Again, it is very understated for its mana cost, but it has the tradable keyword, and I think anything with a tradable keyword should be added. Maybe like put like a tier up a lot of the time because I think it's very beneficial. And the last one we have is a 3 mana weapon. Basically gains 1 attack for every card you draw. Now don't get me wrong, like I said, there are a decent amount of draw effects in Demon Hunter, but I'm thinking kind of like worst case scenario. Sometimes this weapon will just be a 3 mana 1/2 weapon, which is a bit tragic. Next class we have is Druid. So as you can see, there's a couple of 5-star cards. You have Coda Mount. Like, I don't know what more I can say about it. Basically gives a minion rush +4/+2, and when it dies it actually summons a 4/2 of rush as well. Exceptional. Then you got the 4/4 rush that gives your hero +3 attack. It's even better than that Inspire card. I think we spoke about it last time I did a video. Then you got the tradable card, the 4-star card that summons 2/7 taunts. It's basically a 4/14, which I think is really, really strong, and that's why I put it in the good brackets. And then we've got the next one, which is basically a mini Savage Roar, or just gives you like a 2/2 trend. Either are really exceptional and I think can be very beneficial. Next one we have is the 2 mana 1/4. Now I was just going to put this in 3-star, but because it's not that easy to kill off in turn 2, I think it could actually work out in your favor. So I actually think it's really decent. I think this card will surprise us. Next one we have is 3 mana 2/4. I think when you come across to like 3 mana, I think it gets easier to kill cards that are lower statted. So yeah, I'm not a massive fan of the stats, but I like the ability. It's really cool. The 1 mana 2/1 little squirrel, which I think is really cute. I think it's actually going to be pretty decent. As you know, there's a lot of rogue cards that do similar effects, and they seem to be working pretty well in Arena. The 8 mana card I think is pretty good, but it's when you draw your spells that they get cast. So your next 3 spells will get cast, and sometimes you kind of want to choose for yourself, you know. So that's why I think it's good, but I don't think it's like 4 or 5 steer. Do you know, it's the second time I've said steer instead of tier. And the last one we have is Composting. It's okay. I'm not a massive fan. Honestly, I was really torn between 1 and 2 stars, but I like the draw card effects, so we'll take it. And I'm so sorry if you can hear a sound in the background. My cat is behind my monitor. Alrighty, so the next class we have is Mage. So we're going to start with a 5-star card, which is Fire Sales tradable, and it also deals 3 damage to all minions for 4 mana. I think this card's really great, and it's nice to see some early game removal from Mage. Nothing in 4 stars, sadly. Next one we have is like the 7 mana 4/5. Now you're probably thinking it's understated, but it actually casts the highest cost spell in your hand, and Puzzle Box is coming back. So yeah, I see the synergies, I see it. Only reason it's not higher is because you may not always be able to pull that off. Next one we have is that 1 mana spell. I like the value in it. It's basically 1 mana, deal 2 damage, but I like the fact that it adds another spell to your hand, and it gives you like the fire synergy, which we'll talk about with the next cards. 2 mana 2/3, but the next fire spell you cast will deal extra 2 spell damage, and it's not just this turn, it's whenever you cast a fire spell. So I think that's pretty decent on its own. The next card, Ignite. Because I don't see us being able to draw quite often, I think it's okay, but it's 2 mana, deal 2 damage, is the way I see it, so I think it's a bit lackluster. Then the next one we have is the 5 mana 4/5, so basically whenever you cast a fire spell, draw a spell. And really, yeah, it's a little understated, that's why it's in like 2-star tier, but if you do manage to pull it off, then you do get decent value for it. And then, yeah, the next cards are very poor. Like, I am not feeling Mage this time round. So we've got the weapon, which is a 0/2 weapon, and basically when you cast a spell, it reduces another spell in your hand by 5. Again, it's going to be above me how much money you have to spend to get the benefit of this, because I can barely read these. I don't know why it's transferred it this way, but anyway, sorry, I'll go on. Then you got an 8 mana 6/6 that does nothing. Well, technically speaking, if you cast 3 fire spells 3 turns in a row, then yay, but I prefer OG Antonidas, he's more fun. And then you got the 0 mana, your next fire spell this turn costs 2 less. Now if it was just your next fire spell costs 2 less, great. I'd actually like this card, but it has to be this turn, and I think it's just a waste of a card slot, to be honest. Okay, so we're going straight into Paladin. Paladin's going to be insane. Silver Sword is back, so yeah, I think Paladin's going to be another class to look out for, and I'm really excited, especially with this first spell, which is tradable, and basically deals 1 damage to all enemy minions, and it has lifesteal. What? Actually, really, really good. I think this is something you're going to have to really look out for, especially as it's common. Next card we have is a 3 mana 2/2 that draws a minion and it buffs your hand by +1/+1. Again, great cards. It's just like the ultimate value card. And then the next one, you can discover a secret weapon, or divine shield minion. As you can see, like Paladin's been given the good stuff here. And then we got another one that gives a minion +1/+1 and divine shield. And when it dies, it summons a warhorse. I tried looking this up on the Hearthstone page, but I couldn't find out what that meant. But if it summons a minion, pog. And then I got 3-star cards. So you're probably wondering why this is 3-star, not 2-star, but I kind of like the ping element to it, even though it's a bit understated. And it looks like we do have some buff synergy as well, so that's pretty nice. And then the next one we have is a 4-mana 3/5 divine shield, which I actually think is really good on its own. Like, even if you don't buff it, I think it's really, really good. So I like this card a lot. And then you go into the 2-star category. I think this legendary is just a little bit understated. We may not always have a divine shield card, so I'm not a massive fan. Again, the hammer is a weapon at the end of the day, so you probably will just pick it just for the fact that it is a weapon, but it's just a crappy old fiery war axe. Like, I don't really care about the lifesteal too much. And then you got the 1-star weapon, which basically gives minions in your hands +1/+1 whenever you pop a divine shield. Again, that requires way too many conditions, and I'm not all about that. Okay, so the next class we're going to do is Priest. As we can see, we have a cat with us now, and the first card we're going to look at is the 1-mana spell, where you basically discover a death rattle minion and you just trigger its death rattle when you play it, which I think is absolutely bonkers. I don't think it needs much more explanation. Just imagine finding a Pro Drake and just winning the game. And then you got the Elec mount as well. What makes this card insane is that it's basically a steed but better. Like, the death rattle is basically summon another 4/7 with taunt. So you know when you buff in 4/7 and giving a minion taunt, you're getting a 4/7 with taunt as a death rattle as well. Just insane. And then nothing really in 4-star. You've got the legendary. Now, you're not going to be able to trigger the start of game effect. To be honest, I doubt it's even going to be an arena, but it's a 5-mana 5/6, so it's alright. And then again, you got a 3-mana 3/4. You're not always going to be casting shadow spells, but the stats are okay. And then you've got silence all minions, or you can just trade away. Again, decent card, not too bad. Alright, then next we have is a 2-mana 2/3, so if any hero takes damage, you basically get to draw a shadow spell, which could be really good. So it doesn't matter how you deal with damage, you get to draw a spell, which I think could be very beneficial in Arena. And then you've got another card, which is a 4-mana, deal 4 damage with lifesteal. I think it's okay. I know that it can go face as well as like remove a minion, but I don't know. Like, honestly, I'd rather just deal damage to a minion and cost less, but that may just be me. That doesn't really go with the shadowy theme that they're trying to do here. And then you got a 1-mana 1/3. Whenever this is on board, basically, each hero takes 1 extra damage. So bear in mind when this card's on board. And then on the 1-star category, cast a shadow spell, you deal 1 damage to all minions. I don't know, I just don't see this happening so often, that's why I just deem it a little useless. Now, Rogue has some very exciting spells. So the first one's also a tradable card. Basically, it deals 3 damage to a non-damaged character, so basically anybody. And I just love the flexibility of this card. It's kind of like a backstab, but I don't know, kind of better. I really enjoy this one. And the next card we have is a 7-mana 4/4 that basically destroys a minion. Obviously, it is a little bit expensive because of the combo effect, but there's a lot of new SI cards that can reduce this. And I actually think it will be pretty easy to reduce this, not by too much, but even if you reduce it by like 1 or 2, I think you've already got the benefit of it. And then the next thing that we see here is the blade. Oh my god, I cannot wait to play with this blade. Like, the thought of getting a death rattle that's already died this game, like, even if it's like draw a card death rattle, I think it's still worth it. I just like seeing a decent weapon for Rogue. And then you got this legendary, and I think this legendary is actually going to be much better than Besieged, because you can basically trick your opponent into thinking you're a completely different class, and people are going to play a certain way when they see that you're a particular class. Like, you have to remember, like, when you play Arena yourself, you kind of expect your opponent to have certain cards based on their class. Now, they're not obviously always going to have them, but there are some very common cards that you do try to play around, and I think that's what's really cool about this card. And then we got the 3 mana spell where you basically draw a death rattle card. So not only are you drawing this death rattle card, but you're actually triggering its death rattle whilst drawing it as well, which I think is very strong. Then you got the free star cards, basically 3 mana, 3/4. You can give your opponent a coin, but when that dies, you get 2 coins. Yay! I more or less put it there for the stats, and I actually quite like the effects. And then you have the 3 mana, 2/4. Obviously, it's a little understated, but it has rush, and when it attacks, it actually gains stealth, which I actually think is really strong, so I put it in decent category there. And then you got a 2 mana spell, which you basically deal 2 damage to the enemy hero, and then it shuffles like a few copies into your deck, so you could actually have a quite aggressive deck, but that requires your deck to have fairly decent amount of draw, and I don't like the thought of polluting your deck too much with kind of useless cards, unless you're really, really aggro, and even then, I think it's going to be 50-50. And then you have the last card, which is a 4 mana 3/3, and it gains +1/+1 for each SI that you've played this game. I think best case scenario it's going to be like a 4 mana 4/4. That's why I'm just putting it into the 2-star category. I think it has too much of a condition for it to actually be decent. Next class we have is Shaman. Now, I felt a little sorry for Shaman. They have some good cards, but overall I'm a bit skeptical. First one we have is a 4 mana 6/4 Rush with Lifesteal, overloads for 1. I actually think this is really good. At first I put it in the 4-star category, and then I thought about it. And when I saw the Lifesteal effect, I was like, ooh. Now, it would be better if it had more health rather than attack, but I think this is really, really good. So yeah, I think this card is an easy instant pick. And then for the 4-star category, you got a weapon, reduces a battlecry card in your hand by 1, and what's really good about it is the fact that not Demon Hunter, Shaman has a lot of battlecry cards, which is pretty nice. Then you got a 4 mana 4/5, again on its own has decent stats, but it reduces your elementals in your hand and deck by 1, which I think is insane. I think this card's really, really good, and I think it's going to be very strong. Now, this is going to be a very controversial opinion, but I put Tiny Toys in 4 stars, and the reason for it is because basically it summons 4 like 2/2 versions of 5-cost cards, and I'm like, it really depends what you get. I think I'm very skeptical, and because of that, that's why it's 4 stars. I still think it's very good, however. And then you have the legendary, so basically after you play a battlecry minion, it like triggers the battlecry twice, so it's like the first battlecry minion you play each turn. I think it's not bad because it's not hard, because it's going to be really hard to kill this off if you just play it on turn 2. And again, there's a lot of battlecry cards in Arena, but I'm still kind of skeptical. That's why I put it like mid-tier. Then you got the 2-star cards. So you have the I think it's like the charged call. So basically for the amount of mana crystals you are overloaded, you summon a minion equal to that cost. Now, I just like, if you don't have much overload in your deck, I can see this being really bad. Like, I think best case scenario, you're gonna end up summoning what, like a 2 mana card for like 3 mana. It's just it just sounds awful. And then you got the next one, which is the tradable card. Now, it does have the tradable effects, but you can also unlock your mana crystals and deal damage equivalent to the mana crystals. However, you need to be overloaded. If you're not overloaded, this card basically does nothing, which doesn't sound fun. And then and then in the 1-star category, you have a 4 mana 2/5. Whenever you overload a crystal, you do summon another minion. I think it's a 2/2 with Taunt, but I again don't see it really happening or working that much. And then you got the other one where you just draw an outcast card. I'd much rather fill my deck with something just better. Okay, so we have the Warlock cards. It looks like they've been taking some time, so I'm gonna go through these quickly. 6 mana card. I don't know if I have to really explain this card. This is absolutely bonkers. If you have 4 cards in your hands, you play a minion and you're dealing like 4 damage to everything. It's such a good AoE. Like, and like, because of all of the like draw card effects, and with it like wanting you to draw cards, I think it's just so good. And then you got the next spell, which is deal 3 damage, and basically you summon 2 1/3 Void Walkers. beautiful, like it. Now this weapon may be a bit controversial, but the thing is, right, you only have to draw 4 cards to actually trigger this, and I think that's pretty easy for Warlock. So I think this card's going to be really good. It's basically going to be like an Emperor. Obviously we would prefer the minion with stats, but I think this card is going to be fairly easy to pull off. It's going to be easier than people think. And then you got like the freestyle category, give a minion +1/+1 and summon a Dreadsteed. As you know, Dreadsteeds cannot be killed. So yeah, pretty good cards. And then you have the 4 mana spell, like summon a minion. Well, summon a demon or fiends with stacks equal to your hand size. I think with Warlock, that's going to be very easy to accomplish. Then you have the 1 mana spell where you deal 2 damage, heal for 4 health. I think it's pretty good, but I don't think it's as good as Coil or Last Gasp. That's why I put it in the freestyle category rather than 4. Now you have the tradable card. Now I wanted to put in 2-star because it's give your demons +2/+2, but it has a tradable effect, so I was like, it's not that bad. And then you have the last 2 cards, so the 6 mana 8/6 demon, and it only costs 1 if your hand is full. However, it's only got 6 health. I don't really see your hand being that full, and there's just too much rush. There's just too much rush to deal with this, so I'm not a massive fan. And then again with the 2 mana 2/5, people are probably going to think I'm crazy for putting it for 2 stars, but the reason the other cards work so well, like the 3 mana 4/5, is because it dealt more damage than it dealt to your hero, and it was an actual threat. Nobody's going to be too scared about a 2-attack minion on board. Okay, and then the last class we have is Warrior. Now, I think I remember talking about this legendary. I think this legendary is going to be game breaking. So basically, at the end of your turn, it basically attacks a random enemy, and if it dies, it gets +3/+3. Now you can, like, that minion gets +3/+3. Now this is what's insane about this card, is the fact that you can actually target this. I think this card's going to be absolutely bonkers and so annoying. You got the 0 mana spell, so basically choose a minion, and that basically what that will do is it'll make your opponent's minions like attack that minion, so you can target like a poison or something, and that would be really strong. I really like it. Then you got 3 mana 3/3, give your hero +2 attack. I like this card all around. I think it's just a solid card. Then you got the spell where you either deal 2 damage or you deal 5 if you have a pirate on board. I think it's pretty nice. Not always going to get the benefit, but I think there's enough pirates for it to be decent enough to pick. Then you got the 4 mana 3/6. Whenever it's damage, it shuffles 2 2/1 mechs in your deck, and when you draw these spells, you summon the 2/1 mechs. It's decent enough, you know, it's decent enough stats. And then you got the 2-star cards, 3 mana 2/4. I don't really care about armor. I think it's understated, so that's why I chucked in the 2-star category. You got the 6 mana 6/2. Now, I know people are going to be afraid to kill this, but at the same time, you're not always going to get great minions out of your deck. So that's why I kind of put in the 2-star category. Sometimes it could be insane, but sometimes I'm like, eh. And then you got a 2/2, draw a pirate. Now you're not always going to have pirates in your deck. That's why I put it in the 2-star category, because it's fairly understated. And then you got the 1-star one, which is probably the only tradable I put in 1-star, which is basically gain 8 armor. I think it's just useless. I think you can fill your deck with a much better card. Oh my god, do you know what? I finished the Warrior and I realised I did not do Hunter, and Hunter's the class I'm looking forward to the most, so I'm shocked I almost forgot this class anyway. So in the 5-star category, you got a 0-cost spell. Basically you get to choose an enemy minion and make your minions attack that minion. I actually think this is really good. Again, like the Warrior card you just saw, I think this is much stronger than people are going to anticipate, and I definitely want to put in the 5-star category. Then you got the 3 mana spell, give a minion +2/+2, and when it attacks, it's immune. So it doesn't just take damage, it's just immune. I think that is so strong for Hunter. And it also, when that minion dies, it's going to summon a 2/2 that gains immunity whenever it attacks as well, so that's really good. Now the next card you're probably thinking, so why is this not a 5-star card? And the reason for that is because it's only a Death Rattle that summons the 2 1/1s with poison and rush, and the thing is, like, if your opponent kills this on their turn, it's just too easily controllable by your opponent. That saying, it's still a really big threat, and that's why it's a 4-star, but I don't know, I think the condition, but it's still really good. I think this is definitely a pickable card. Next one we have is a 3 mana spell, deal 3 damage, a hero power cost 4 next turn. This is basically like a kill command without needing a beast to the opponent's face, if you think of it that way. But yeah, it's okay. Like, you may end up just using this card to remove a minion, so it depends on the situation. It's a nice smart card, but not a great like control techie card. Next one we have is the Rat King. I quite like this. So it has Rush, and when it dies it goes dormant, and when you lose like 5 minions, it basically resummons itself again. So it's like an everlasting Rat King, which I quite like. And with the cards that we have like next turn, which is like basically the Rodent's Nest with the Death Rattle of 5 1/1 rats, like it's very easy to trigger. And then you got the 3 mana 1/6 whenever it 1/6 1/6 whenever it attacks, it gives you beast +1/+1. Now again, this requires you to have beasts on board, but I like the fact that it has really high health, so it's actually quite hard to get rid of, and I think people may not prioritize killing this, so it'll be like easier to pull off any combos that you may or may not have. And then the last thing you have is the 2 mana weapon that has no attack. Yeah! So basically, after 3 friendly beasts die, draw a beast and give it +1/+1. So I kind of like the effect of it, but I think, again, like some of the other cards like this, it has too much requirements. Like, I think they're more catered towards quests than Arena, so Alrighty, so now we're at the neutrals. Now some of these neutrals scare me, like the first one. So basically the first one, whenever, whatever minions that are adjacent to it will have Wind Fury. Yeah, so Trading's going to be very important in Arena, and the fact that that's a common absolutely petrifies me. Same with this one. Next one you got like a 5 mana 4/5 that gives adjacent minions +1/+1. Insane. Like, I think that is so strong. Next one, you got a tradable card, Battle Cry, gain +1/+1 for each minion on board. Even if you just have one other minion on board, that's going to be a 3 mana 3/4. Bonkers. I actually genuinely think this is so good. And then you have the 6 mana 6/7 that basically transforms all the cards in your deck into dragons, and it keeps the mana costs and the stats. Now you're probably thinking, is that good? But if you really think about the dragons that we have, I think that's really great. Like, a lot of the dragons that we have great effects, Sarah for example, so I think this card's actually going to be quite bonkers. Oh yeah, so this card I kind of like, because this card actually makes your opponents kind of like too scared to play like spells, so it would actually make your opponent try to remove it by like kind of like sacrificing their board rather than casting a spell. So I actually think this one's really good. This Dormant card I'm actually really skeptical on, because I'm not a massive fan of the abilities, but I think it's still going to be fairly good and a decent pick. The Rush card, again, I think you're mainly going to be paying 4 mana for it, so I think it's still really good. You have the 5 cost card, which I think is a great defense card if you're below 15 health. I think especially for like classes like Warlock, you're going to really utilize that. You're going to have a 5 mana 6/10 taunt. Brilliant. I think we talked about this 2 cost card before. Discover a spell that isn't in your deck, which could be a really good thing. Got the 2 mana 5/4 dormant. It basically comes alive when you play 3 cards. Very easy to do. The 4 mana 3/4 tradable cards, not only is it tradable, but it also silences a minion, which is going to be insane. I think it's great. You got a 1 mana 1/3 minion that gives a minion taunt. Where even with it having great stats for the mana cost, it has a nice ability. Then you got the 4 mana 3/3 Death Rattle, and it basically summons a random 3 cost card. Great, I love that ability. Then you got a 2 mana 2/3 legendary. Whenever you play a tradable, you can actually discover which card you draw, which is nice, but I don't think you're always going to pull that off. Then you got a 3 mana 2/3, and it basically gets like a card from your deck, and basically it like, I don't know, it like eats it up, and when it dies, like it'll be in your hand instead, which I think is quite a nice effect. Got a 2 mana 2/3 taunt. When it's drawn, you get 2 taunts. You get 2 of them. Cool. Nice value. 2 mana 1/2, discover a mech and reduce its cost. Nice. Like these cards, basically the way that I've ranked all of these cards is either by stats or abilities. So you got a 3 mana 3/3, choose a beast, shuffle 3 in your deck with 3/3 stats, brilliant. There's a lot of very decent beasts out there. You got a 2 mana 2/3 at the end of your turn, reduce a nature spell in your hand by 1. Even if you don't have nature spells, it's still a vanilla 2/3. Then you got a 2 mana 3/2 that gives you and your opponent a coin. That's kind of nice. You have an 8 mana 8/8 taunt. I actually think this taunt's actually really decent because if they have to get through this taunt to actually get lethal, this actually gives you like 8 health essentially. So this card could actually be really, really helpful. Then you got create a golden copy of a random card in your hand. I quite like it. You can even control it if you're low on cards. You got the card that we've seen from the get-go, the 3/3 rush that is tradable. Like the only reason it's not 2 stars because it has the tradable effect like I said before. You got a 2 mana 2/2 stealth. The next card that you draw costs 1 less. I think that has a really great effect. Then you got the 8 mana 7/7 devil sword. No, I'm joking. But like I think most of the time you're just going to get the rush effect. But if you get the divine shield and the taunt, you are absolutely golden. Then you got the 3 mana 3/4. You've got basically the upgrade of ooze. I think this card's really, really good. I probably should have put in 4-star, but I think I've more or less stand by my list. Then you got a 6 mana 4/4 that summons 2 0/5s with taunt. Very annoying card, but I don't know, I just wouldn't go for it. I don't like being too defensive. Same with the next one, 4 mana 3/2 that gives you health equivalent to your hand side. Like I much rather have medic personally. Then you got a 4 mana 3/4 tradable with spell damage. I'm not a massive fan of spell damage. I much prefer the silent version of that. And then you got the 1 mana 2/1 draw a card at the start of your turn, which means your opponent can just kill it before you even get the benefit of it. So really I think it's a bit of a card waster really. And then you got a 6 mana 4/5, very understated, and it draws your opponent a card as well as yourself. So again, they got the 3 mana 2/4 that could potentially increase the cards in your hand, not just decrease them. So it's a very risky card to have. Take at your own risk. And then we finally have the 1-star card. So you have the 1/1 beast with the ability that's probably never going to happen in Arena. If you do pull it off, I will salute you. And then you got the 3 mana 5/6 minion, and it can only attack if you have 8 or more cards in your hands. Can you imagine pulling that off in Arena? Anyway, that was my card review. I'm so sorry it took me a while to do this, and I'm sorry that I speed run this. It's just I'm literally doing it's literally the 3rd now. It's like 2 AM in the morning, so I had to do this quickly. But that's my opinion, and like you can see my tier list to where I rank these cards, so you still got like a general idea of how I view them. But overall I think it's a great set. I'm really looking forward to playing with these cards. I'm especially looking forward to Druid, Hunter and Warrior actually. I really want to play with that legendary. That legendary seems kind of ace. Anyway, this was Sofa Plays, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Bye!